Fisher's annual results launch for the year ended June 2024 on the 30th. My name is Vusi Ubega. You see on your program that I am tasked to do the opening remarks, but I decided to deploy myself as the program director as well. My role in Rand Water, I'm called the Chief Strategy Officer. And again, welcome. And thank you for your support over the years. I'm advised that this launch, we are sharing it with investors, bankers, other stakeholders that we partner with. I can see a number of Rand Water officials. And once again, Group Chief Executive, good morning with the rest of the executive team and the management team that is here. We are going to have a very short program that will be to the point. Rand Water as an organization, at the time when many organizations are struggling, because the economy is not good, Rand Water is thriving. But why is Rand Water thriving? You will never have a thriving family-owned organization if the capability and the capacity of that entity is not at the level that will enable it to thrive. Rand Water is impacted by all environmental factors that impact negatively and positively on all organizations and entities of the world. When we did a scan of the environment, we have realized that everything that has affected other institutions has affected us. But we have managed to sail through, not without difficulties, of course. You will see when the colleagues make the presentation and they launch the results, you will find that not everything is smooth sailing. You will find that there are challenges in terms of revenue collection, in terms of outstanding debt, but you will also find juxtaposed against that we are performing from an operational perspective at the highest level. You will also find that assurance providers have actually given us a green light to say we are running this organization at an optimum level. The future is bright for as long as we keep holding hands with our partners. We are here today to launch and celebrate our performance for the year, as I indicated earlier on. And we are here because you have been here for us and with us. Some of the achievements that we've attained would not necessarily have been attained had you not been our partners. And it is important to embrace that and celebrate that. So again, you are welcome to share this platform with us, share and rejoice with us as an organization on the achievement that we've attained for the year in question. And colleagues, as I indicated, it's not going to be a long program. We will invite, when you look at your program, there are only a few items. The one that I'm dealing with now is the opening remarks, and then the next one will have highlights and operations from the Group Chief Executive, Ntate Musai, and then you will have the financial performance reflection from the Group Chief Financial Officer, Me Nyembe, and then you will have looking forward to the future, what we intend doing next as we run this race from the Group Chief Executive once again. And then you'll have the vote of thanks from the COO Ndate Mehlo. And then we're hoping at noon will be done, or even before that, for lunch and networking. Because the growth of any organization and any leader and any person is also linked to the networks that they create and sustain in the long term. So that when you mention our name, you will be able to vouch for us wherever you go, that that group of people constituting Rand Water is a group of people that you can rely on. And when we grow further, we'll be able to come to you and say, you've taken us from one point to the other, please take us to the next point. So in those words, colleagues, you are welcome, and we are now moving to the next item. Dade Musai, please come to the stage to give us the highlights and operations.
Shokatide. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Sipho Abednego Musai. What's funny? Yes, my name is Abednego. I got it from the Holy Book. Abednego's original name is Azariel. You know what it means? The servant of light. The other name is he who shines the light, he who shows the way to go. Isn't that appropriate for Abednego to be leading Rand Water? Thank you so much for coming to our annual results launch for 2024. Do I need to do anything for the presentation to show? Oh, there you are. I wish to start here in terms of our governance structure. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to report that in the year under review, there has not been much change. As an organization, at the board level, we remain stable. The only new recruit in the space is the recruitment of Mayor Phemi Majodina. We recruited her at the dawn of the 7th administration to be our Minister of Water and Sanitation. Other than that, we kept the team as is, stable, driven by excellence, and of course, highly qualified. So it is important for an institution like ourselves to be stable, to be organized, to be structured at this level for a number of reasons that I will not go through this morning. Just in terms of our area of supply and operation, for those that don't know us, allow me to quickly introduce Rand Water to you. What we do, we are in the business of trading water. We buy water from the Department of Water and Sanitation, add value to it, and sell it. That's our business model. And as we do so, we must ensure that we have a good top line that covers our operational expenditures and have a bottom line so that we can go back to the market from some of you to continuously invest in our infrastructure. For us to do so, we have a network of engineering infrastructure through which we supply. In the year under review, we supply 4,554 million liters of water a day. When we picked at about 200 million liters of water a day. Our customers, in essence, is mainly made up of municipalities. We've got 17 of those, but we do supply water to mines. We have railways, we have industries, and we also have direct consumers. How do we do it? We abstract water from the Vaal dam or from the catchment, and I'll show you a slide later. And then through that process of abstracting from the Vaal dam, we purify that water at Vereeniging and Zekerbosch Purification Works, south of Johannesburg. We pump that water to our main booster stations. We have 4 of them, Swakopmund, Palmit, Mapleton, and Aikenhof. We then further pump that water into about 60 strategically located clean water storage tanks called reservoirs. We do so through a network of pipes. We have close to 3,500 kilometers of pipe that moves water from one area to another. So where does this water come from? This water comes from the Vaal. Comes from the Vaal, and as I indicate, we pump it through a network of booster stations to where it needs to reach. This process of abstracting water from the Vaal Dam is regulated by a license. And in this license, we have a license of 1,800 cubic meters per annum. What we are currently doing in line with the challenges that we are experiencing in the sector is that we are abstracting at the top and the maximum of what we can abstract at this point in time, which is 1,800 million cubic meters per annum. So rainwater as it is, we have no more water to give into the system. In fact, if anything, the Department of Water and Sanitation wants us to abstract at 1,600 million cubic meters per annum. So we need to, if anything, bring that number down to 1,600 million cubic meters per annum. We have already indicated to our municipalities that they need to do that. Why? One of the reasons is that we have, over and above the license, we still have the Lesotho Highlands Phase 2 project coming through only in 2028. We have to then bring it down to, at least at the very least, municipalities must abstract at 1,800, but further, they need to abstract at 1,600 million cubic meters per annum. What do we then need to do with our municipalities? We need to implement water conservation and demand management measures that will ensure that we bring that consumption down. I think you loaded the wrong presentation. Because some of the things are in the right presentation, like can you just see if you can update it, the one I gave you. Because it clearly illustrates where we, in terms of what we need to be given and the measures that we are putting in place. I thought it is important that I explained to you what is happening in the catchment, is that for the license that we have, these are the municipalities that we're providing water to. Where you see in the red is, for example, the city of Johannesburg. We need to bring them that down to a number that comes at 1,528 and eventually at 1,356. So we are working long and hard with the municipalities to make sure that they come into the license that we have. So in this slide, I share with you the measures that we are putting in place with them to reduce the consumption. So the problem that we have in Gauteng is not the resource itself. The problem that we have is that the water that we supply to municipalities is actually lost. We measure that water losses through what you call non-revenue water. In the non-revenue water, we have what you call physical losses. On average, our municipalities are losing 30 to 40% of the water that we give them. And when you talk about non-revenue water, which includes other things, is that incorrect billing and so forth, it's talking about non-revenue water of 50%. So the challenge that we have in Gauteng, unlike what we are seeing in other areas, it's not day zero, where we are worried about water in the dams, but in effect, it's the water utilization, water use efficiency that we're working with our municipalities to improve. So how are we implementing these water conservation and demand management measures? We have what we call Project 1600 in Rainwater. This is where we sit with our municipalities and try to bring consumption to 1,600 million cubic meters per annum. We have also established through Premier Lisufi, Gauteng IGR Forum, where we sit also with municipalities. We have a dashboard. That dashboard assists municipalities and all of us to monitor water consumption and bring it down within the license numbers. We also are getting assistance from the World Bank and other stakeholders, those that helped with Day Zero in Cape Town. We have a platform called PWSG, where we sit and craft strategy to implement water conservation and demand management measures. So from us as Rainwater, although the non-revenue water is on the other side of the value chain, we have taken initiatives to lead that process. Ladies and gentlemen, what we also want to do, because largely all the water, most of it, 90%, comes from surface water, from the dams that we build in Lesotho, and in the integrated Vaal River system, 14 of them, we want to diversify the sources of water. We have started with the project of exploiting the groundwater, groundwater exploitation, so that we have a mix of sources of water, not only surface but groundwater. Effluent reuse, serious opportunity for investment. We're working with Enfuleni, Ervart. We have identified few sites, and we are at the point in time where we are working with our transactional advisors to make these projects bankable. We believe before the turn of 2025, we would have gotten some of the projects off the ground. This slide is important that I share with you, quite a busy slide, but it drives the message across. During these times of water, intermittent water supply or shortage, many people have been saying, Rainwater, you're not giving us enough water. Rainwater is not putting water into the system. Truth of the matter is that if you look at the top part of the slide, you'll realize that year on year, in fact, from 2019 to 2024, if you concentrate on that red dotted line, you see we have been increasing the volumes of water into the system by an odd 4.3%. 4.3% with respect to the volumes of water that we supply, it's a lot of water. In 2024, the year under review, you will notice that against the budget of 4,474 megaliters of water a day, we in fact supply 4,555 million liters of water a day, which in effect, it is a variance of about 0.8%, but year on year we are seeing, year on year we are seeing an increase of 0.8%, but the variance against the budget of 1.8%. The bottom part of the slide, we just also show you that quarter on quarter, including the last quarter of 2024, we have added more water than what is budgeted. For us, it is concerning, of course, we want to sell more water. That's how we make money. The more we sell, the bigger the top line, of course, the bottom line. But we subscribe to the notion of sustainable development. We cannot exploit the resource beyond leaving anything behind from the generations that are going to come through. So while we are selling water, we want to be responsible. As a water practitioner, I do not think it is wise that every single time the demand moves a little bit, instead of talking efficiency, you build in dams. Progressive society are decommissioning dams. Why? Because the building of dams causes environmental problem. When you build dams, you move people from their areas of birth. You isolate them from where their loved ones are buried. You move them into the hinterlands and they start from scratch. You move them from subsistence that they are receiving in those areas. So to build the dams, for us to lose 40% of it, causes social impact. Some of us who are environmental practitioners will tell you that if you build dams, you are killing wetlands, you are killing peatlands. These are there for a number of reasons. Peatlands, they absorb carbon dioxide that you in the industrialized world have increased exponentially. So peatlands, they do that. Wetlands is their way of river bodies, of managing the flows, purifying the water. So these things are, I believe in God, they are God created, and they were there to ensure that it sustains life. So when you build dams without efficiency, you are causing serious environmental effect in terms of the marine biology that is in there, the plants and so on and so forth. So we build dams, we need to augment, but we have to be sustainable about it because we're not going to leave anything behind. So Lesotho Highlands Phase 2, 20 years ago when I worked in the industry, in fact 30 years, but 20 I think in close to working with water boards. The reconciliation study in the Demehlo was saying, if we implement water conservation and demand management measures, you don't need to build that dam. Now we're building it. So I'm saying this to say you need to find a balance between augmenting the system, meeting the demands, but being environmentally responsible. Ladies and gentlemen, in the year under review, we remain committed to our asset life cycle management program and strategy. This is our Bible. This informs us in terms of when do we plan for infrastructure, when do you build new infrastructure, when you refurbish, and when you operate. This we do at all material times. We have dedicated individuals that do this on a daily basis because infrastructure does just not appear from nowhere. For example, the System 5A that we are completing next year, that is bringing 600 million liters of water into the system, is part of our augmentation system or plan that we conceived in 2009. So we have already now talking about infrastructure in the next 20 and 30 years. Where are we going to build? And then, of course, if you look at our annual report, we have implemented various projects to the tune of approximately 2 billion in the year under review to augment. What we have done, which is very difficult within South African context, we want people to do maintenance, but when they do maintenance, we slaughter them. We were brave enough this year for a month of between June and July, for a full month in that period, we took out our plant for massive maintenance. And we need your support in that regard to understand, and I think South Africa needs to get into the habit of doing maintenance. To say maintenance is a way of life, because when you do maintenance, your infrastructure lasts for its own planned life cycle. If you don't do maintenance, the infrastructure maintains itself. You lose it to bring it back, it's expensive, the inconvenience is a little bit longer. So I want to report and indicate that the infrastructure that we have, we do not only augment, not only refurbish, but do extensive maintenance. And we did exactly that in the year under review. The benefits of maintenance need no explanation. I like the illustration of a car, that you can't drive your car forever. You have to take it for maintenance. Otherwise, it's not going to last you. Engineering infrastructure goes through the same process. For the year under review, in terms of our 6 capitals, financially, I'm very happy to report, as the CFO will unpack it in the later slides, that we saw a very stellar performance in quite a number of KPIs financially, including 4.4 billion net cash generated from our operations, an increase in revenue of 11% from 19.6 to 21.8, and then we saw a return of assets of close to 10%. EBITDA, that has improved. Remember, I raised concern last year from 3.3 to 3.9. For manufactured capital, as I indicated, in the year under review, we spent just under 2 billion in upgrading our infrastructure and augmenting our PPE, and we remain committed to renewing our infrastructure going forward. The natural capital, ladies and gentlemen, we pride ourselves as supplying some of the best drinking water in the world. We measure our water against SANS 241 water quality standards, but because we decided to be slightly different, we measure our water in terms of World Health Organization standards. Nobody says we must do so, but we do so. We also go to the US, we check our water against Environmental Protection Agency of the United States. It's not a requirement in terms of law, but we do so. As if that is not enough, we also go to Europe. We check our water quality standard against the European Union drinking water standard. And indeed, the water that is sitting on the table that we have bottled from our purification works is the best in the world. So we managed to maintain all that in the year under review and still continue to supply water 24/7. Even when we are taking some of the system out, we are still supplying all the municipalities with water. If we take Aikenhof out to do maintenance, we supply Johannesburg through Palmit. So I'm happy to report in the year under review, we ensure that our plants are operational when we do maintenance on one and the other is up and running. We'll continue, although we have a non-revenue water of just 5%, which is way below the average standard of double digit, we will continue to work on our non-revenue water losses. Human capital, as the next C, in the year under review, we maintain a staff complement of 3,500. We awarded bursaries to our employees, and again, we maintain our staff turnover way below the target of 5% at 2.02, and we issued learnerships, bursaries, and graduate development for the unemployed youth. Intellectual capital, when I started in Rainwater, I promised you that we're going to establish Rainwater Institute. It's up and running, it's fully functional. Its objective is to make sure that we do research and development and we institutionalize innovation. What they have done for us, they have identified various innovative, if you like, innovative portals and opportunities for us to invest in and then of course make Rainwater better going forward. What is most importantly is that as a result of Rainwater Institute, Rainwater was nominated as one of the top 4 utilities for the Public Agency of the Year award in 2024 globally. Social and relations capital will continue to engage our customers. We hope to use this opportunity as our stakeholders to exactly do that and continue to invest through our Rainwater Foundation on socio-economic development. We run a very tight water-wise program. As you walked in here, we played a video that shows the work that we're doing in schools and community that, in effect, in the long run, will make sure that water is saved going forward. These are the numbers in terms of environmental, social, and governance perspective. Just hopping along to the operational highlights, getting closer to the numbers. We are happy that this year we have achieved an unqualified audit opinion against the target of 0, no unplanned interruption supply. Avoidable water loss, we set ourselves a target of 5, we came at 4.84. In terms of BEE award of work to BEE, triple BEE compliant entities achieve 100% against 85. Our board members, we measure their attendance and the value and the resolutions that they take at all the time. You'll see we have achieved that. Reporting on statutory requirements, corporate social investment target achieved. We made sure that our municipalities are all contracted with us. And I'm very happy, despite what is happening, that in terms of the target, with respect to customer satisfaction and survey of 82.5, we achieve 86.1. Triple BEE spend as a percentage of total expenditure of rainwater, We also achieved that. We spent even more than the budget, and total number of identified municipalities supported, as I indicated, that we do support municipalities beyond just selling water to them, go into the part of their value chain, work out mechanisms and put systems in place to provide support to them going forward. Continuing with regards to infrastructure, insofar as our operational highlights are concerned, with respect to overall project completion of our capital program, within the targeted date, we achieved 100%. Overall project expenditure target that we have set ourselves, we have achieved that. We had few years, many years ago, where we really struggled with CAPEX for a number of reasons, but I'm happy that the systems that we've put in place through our SED program enable us to work with communities, real communities on the ground, and ensure that our projects are taken through. We also are measured against the actual CAPEX on expansion projects. We achieved that. And repairs and maintenance, which is extremely important, and I spoke a bit about it earlier in terms of that budget that we had. We spent more than what we even allocated. Financial highlights, very briefly. We achieved the targets that we set ourselves in terms of gross profit margin for both primary and secondary activities. We saw an improvement in terms of our return on assets. Against a target of 8.9, we achieved 11.1. Debt to equity, we have a range of 0.05 to 0.36. We came in at 0.08. Net profit, the bottom line from both primary activities, we set ourselves a target of 20% of the top line to go to the net profit. We came in at 23.5. Similarly, secondary activities, these are the activities, of course, that are not related to bulk, such as provision of sanitation services, O&M, upgrade of infrastructure in terms of Section 63. On behalf of the Department of Water and Sanitation, we achieved that target. Current ratio, we didn't achieve it, but just look at that number. The target of current ratio should be between 2 and 3.3, and then we didn't achieve it because we outperformed it at 3.84. Ladies and gentlemen, our Achilles heel remained debtors days. We set ourselves a target of 70 days, but when we closed the year, it was 110 days. We are still feeling the pinch of the challenges that are experienced by our own municipalities. We're happy that when we close the financial years, they pay, but it's always delayed. We are able to recover 90, 100% of our money, but we're not getting it on time. Our debtors days remain a concern. As I indicated, in the last year, we established rainwater services. Part of the rainwater services is to establish what we call special purpose vehicle to work with municipalities so that we integrate forward in our entire value chain, so that we are able to interface directly with the consumers. The consumers going forward will pay into the special purpose vehicle that is owned by Rainwater Services and Rainwater, and the municipalities were now taking charge of the value chain. We are now going into spaces where municipalities used to struggle with us. The beauty about it is that National Treasury and the Department of Water and Sanitation, all these grants that are going to municipalities that are struggling to spend these grants will go into a special purpose vehicles. We have had some of you in the market space getting interested. We are putting together proper governance structure. This SPV is going to be run by a professional board, not politicians, professional board. They're going to appoint a professional, well-educated, experienced chief executive. Is going to have subcommittees, and then it's going to have proper governance structures. So with that, it will be able to function on its own, it will operate, it will raise funds, and the people, trust me, in most municipalities, people are happy to pay for their services, but they need accountability. So we are putting together the governance structures in place to ensure that this SPV is going to go through. We have made applications to National Treasury and Department of Water and Sanitation. We're waiting for their response, and then we're running our head. That is led by Maobane Mahlare, our Rainwater Services MD, You may need to, these people are going to put money into that thing. You may need to stand up so that they see you. So this is our own creative way of resolving the challenges that we have. Gone are the days when we used to complain that we are not paid, we close people's tabs, we reduce, we take them to court, we take their accounts, and so on and so forth. Those measures, to an extent, they've helped us in terms of EBITDA. We are happy with that, but we believe that we need to do more to ensure that this KPI is achieved going forward. Our people, as I indicated, we watch staff turnover. I have a direct problem. I don't have enough people resigning in Rainwater. Those that resign, they come back again. So I have a problem. I have a very low staff turnover. What a beautiful problem to have. And then, of course, we also check our permanent or contract jobs that we create, remuneration as a percentage of our total OPEX. You need to keep an eye on that. I talked about bursaries, learnerships, temporary jobs that we create. And what we also watch in the last 5 years very closely, this is what I monitor operationally myself, females recruited in management and technical positions. You'll know in terms of our history, what we have seen South Africa doing, we have gotten more female folks into the business, but they're sitting somewhere at the bottom. In Rainwater, we have a moratorium, and if you want to go out of there, it has to go at the group level, at the group chief executive. You must tell me, why do you want to appoint a male at the management and technical position? You will see as a result of that, we always set a target of those positions that we have. We set a target of 50%, but you'll see at the managerial and technical position, 77% of those vacancies that we had at that level were filled by female. In fact, I now have another problem, that we have more female folks in this position. We just need to balance it again. But it is deliberate. Unless we take direct interventions to deal with these historical balances, we will not achieve those targets. Graduate programs, a number of breaches in terms of materiality and significance, we also achieved that. What we do on a yearly basis, like every other institution, we look at risks. We have technical, operational, low-level risk, but we also come up with what we call top 10 strategic risks. These are the risks, as you would know, that in terms of King's report, the board needs to have a side of. We look at them on a continuous basis, and we update them continuously. Top of our risk register is an issue of electricity in terms of its reliability and the quality. We are very aggressive in that regard. We want to promote somehow our independence instead of relying solely on Eskom and municipalities to give us electricity. We want to diversify our electricity base. We are at the tail end of finalizing our hydropower plants, but I've established a dedicated unit in Rainwater that is dealing with sectoral growth. At the top of their list, I saw Sheryl earlier, is headed by General Manager. At the top of that list is to go and look for us green energy in the main, to augment or substitute the energy that we get from Eskom coal-powered power stations. So we are looking at this. It remains a matter of concern. Load shedding is gone, but the quality of electricity that we get is still not too good. But of course, it's not also environmentally compliant. The risk number 2, I've already spoken about it. This is the issues of debtors' days, non-payment or late payment of our municipality. We're worried about that. We have put it as risk number 2. And these initiatives that I talked about are intended to do so. You always keep an eye on the ability to supply potable water, and that difference that I spoke about between demand and supply, making sure it's coming at the right numbers, to ensure that we remain sustainable, not only financially sustainable, but environmental and socially responsible. We check on that. Risk number 4 is related to risk number 2. And of course, vandalism is a big problem in South Africa. It affects us. We keep an eye on it. Risk number 5. Risk number 6, cyber attacks. 7, encroachment of our pipelines. Those of you that watch TV and the news, we're running with the program where we're conscientizing our people not to build on top of our pipelines because it's quite dangerous to do so. We always want to complete our infrastructure projects on time. And of course, we get sometimes to be too excited. We set ourselves lofty goals in terms of project execution, and we want to plan better in terms of our procurement planning and execution. We watch that. We also want to ramp it up going forward. Like everybody, we are worried about climate change. We believe that, as I indicated, you can build dams. It is important that you build dams. But we have seen what happened in Australia. They had all these dams, climate change hit them. They had drought that lasted for decades. The dams ran empty. They had all the dams, but the dams were empty. What they then did, they built desalination plants. And the whole of Australia had desalination plants, huge capital rollout. And guess what happened? It rained. Climate change for you. So they have got huge infrastructure, desalination plants that have to be paid. They borrowed money in the marketplace. And wow, they need to pay, but the dams are full. People are saying, we don't want your desalted water. We want to go back to the dams. So for us, what is important for us as water practitioners to communicate, yes, resilience is important in terms of infrastructure development, but adaptability, adaptation is extremely important. To deal with climate change, we here in Gauteng and beyond, we need to adapt. It's not the same anymore. The dams are not going to help you. You need to go by with little. You need to do more with little. The luxury, go in Cape Town, of using water, clean drinking water, to hose our cars is coming to an end. If I were to advise you, start looking at how you're using your water. If I were to advise you, look at your meters, look at your consumption. Water is still very cheap in South Africa. Some say it's not cost reflective, but when the 10 comes, in terms of these dams that we're building, it's going to be expensive. Those of us that have adapted, that go by with less, it's going to be easy. So what we need to do as a result of climate change, we need to talk adaptability and, of course, ensure that we build resilient infrastructure. We'll continue in the year under review, play our part as a responsible corporate citizen with respect to our corporate social investment. We put close to 84 million into our Rainwater Foundation. And then, of course, we also have external funding of about 7.3 million in 2024. That augments our WASH program. WASH is Water and Sanitation Hygiene Program, where we go into the communities. We changed a lot in terms of sanitation, but because we do such a good work, other institutions have come to Rainwater and say, rather than we do our own corporate social investment, can we do it with you? So I'm happy in the year under review, we were able to deal with issues of capacity building in communities and facilitated innovation and training. And we trained some of our young entrepreneurs in the township to fix the leaks so that when you're in the township, you don't have to call a plumber from town to fix your leaks. We have entrepreneurs in place to ensure that that happens. Thanks to our Rainwater Foundation, we were able to execute all this. Pictorially, you'll see beyond the WASH program, we have what you call Adopt a Learner, a scholarship program, where we take students. Of course, they have to be bright, and of course, they have to study maths and science, and then we put them in schools, because these are the future of Rainwater. And this program has been successful. What we have seen, in fact, some of our project managers, and of course, accountants here we will have accountants. Yeah. CFO is not impressed. But what we have seen is that some of the project managers that are now running project System 5A, we have identified them from school, we took them through into the university, we put them into our graduate program, and they are some of the best project managers in the world. So thanks to Rainwater Foundation that we are able to adopt them while at school, take them through varsity, take them through Rainwater, so that we are able to ensure that Rainwater remains successful going forward. And of course, in terms of cooperatives that we support with external funding, it's extremely important. I also talked about domestic water leaks repair and some of the community supply going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it here and hand it over to the CFO. You are here to listen to her, not to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Group CE, for that overview. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, our investors, esteemed stakeholders, dedicated colleagues and committed colleagues of Rainwater. We're really honored that you actually have joined us today so that we can present our annual results for the financial year of 30 June 2024. I must say that this has actually been a good year for Rainwater amidst difficult trading conditions as well as macroeconomic conditions. The macroeconomic landscape that we actually operate within is actually shaped by both the global as well as the national forces. And from a global perspective, we have actually noted that there has been, geopolitical tensions. And as the Chief Executive has indicated, there has been an escalating climate crisis that's actually been experienced globally, which has actually impacted water resources and as such demand urgent and innovative responses. However, at home here in South Africa, we actually grappled with economic challenges, significant economic challenges, infrastructure deficits from both the energy sector, water sector, even the logistics sector, and also rising water demand. And these external challenges has actually necessitated that, our approach from a strategic, perspective, to echo the words of the Group Chief Executive, needed to ensure that we are resilient and even adaptable in our operations, which is actually showcased in the performance that I will just present. Internally, we actually focused our resources, in ensuring that we actually do adhere aligned to regulatory standards, as well as ensure that we do meet our customer needs. And which then now involved really significant stakeholder engagement and employment of sustainable practices. During this period, Rainwater remained resilient and continued to actually produce good, solid financial performance. We maintained an uninterrupted supply of potable water, and our balance sheet remained stable, robust, with strong liquidity positions as well as profitability metrics, despite this challenging environment. Our dedication to efficiency and customer satisfaction has actually yielded good results in this year, showcasing a revenue increase of 11% on the back of an improved water supply levels, an additional 1% compared to the previous year. And even from a gross income perspective, we are seeing a significant increase of 15% to 7 billion, really showcasing the resilience, of our organization despite the inflationary pressures as well as the increased input costs. The strong performance from a gross income perspective allowed us to maintain, the gross income margins within, our bracket, performance bracket of 30 to 35%, currently showcasing 32% gross margins that have been generated. From a net income perspective, overall increase in net income of 29% on the back of that gross income, mainly, as a result of the substantial revenue increases that we spoke to, cost containment measures that were also, implemented during the course of the year, and improved credit management measures that translated in a slower increases in expected credit losses. Additionally, the net income actually benefited from enhanced investments in our term deposits and bonds that not only led to a significant increase in finance income, but also has managed to serve to strengthen our overall earnings, resulting in an increase in net income from 3.5 billion to 4.6 billion. From a secondary activities perspective, which will then now talk to those activities that we have undertaken for the provision of water to industries, mines, direct customers, directives, ministerial directives. We've implemented Section 63, directive in the Mfuleni local municipality area, wherein we are providing support, implementing projects from a waste management and water services management perspective, have actually resulted in an increase in the overall revenues that have been derived therefrom of 9% to 1.3 billion, with the gross income increasing in line thereto by 7% to 559 million. What is critical to indicate is that from a water services perspective, that the provision, legislative provision requires that secondary activities can only be undertaken if they are earnings enhancing. So we would have noted in the target will say your net income target should at least break even, be sitting at about 1%. But we've actually been able to undertake these activities and even contribute towards the overall bottom line of Rand Water with a net income generation of 465 million. This is actually a reduction compared to a 15% reduction compared to the prior period. And I just need to highlight that that is as a result of, in 2023, we had an abnormal exceptional item that we had to recognize, which related to the reversal of the expected credit losses that had actually been provided for over the period. And it related to a project we had undertaken on behalf of the Department of Water and Sanitation in the last years, wherein there was a non-payment. So we had raised the provision, and the payment only came through after 5 years in 2023, and hence the reversal in expected credit loss, and it actually then pushed up the net income levels to 546 million. So overall, the 2024 performance is aligned to normal operation, does not necessarily incorporate any exceptional items, so it's still good performance. From the main input costs that actually then impact our cost of sales, it's important to highlight that, there are three critical elements, one of which is the cost of energy. Would note that the cost of the growth in the pricing, for energy year on year was sitting at about 15%, as well as the overall consumption levels of energy. Would note that has actually cents per kilowatt hour, and the consumption has actually increased significantly in this particular year. And this is as a result of the increased volumes that have actually been treated in this current year, volumes of supply, as well as the continuous pumping that we actually had to then now employ in order to ensure that we meet the demand of our customers. Persistent, load shedding, as well as the power trips that the Group CE actually spoke about, has also contributed towards the increased consumption levels, because every time there's a power trip, then we have to restart the pumps, then the consumption at that particular time then is actually higher than if it's actually running at a normal levels. And hence we are seeing the energy usage consumption is actually increasing somewhat. So this is an area that is of concern, is part of our top 10 risk, is actually the number 1 risk, and there are measures that have actually been put in place wherein we're actually exploring strategies that would actually then enable us to mitigate the risk of increasing costs, as well as ensuring that we have improved self-reliance. From a chemicals perspective, it's another area where we have seen really tremendous changes, in the operations, a reduction in the chemical cost compared to the previous year. It has reduced by 2%. Mainly as a result of the improvement in the water qualities that we experienced in the last 6 months of the financial year. We are continuing to actually experience similar turbidities even in this new financial period, and as such, the extent of chemicals that were actually utilized for treatment purposes was actually slower than in the past. We have indicated that from a volumes perspective, our sales increased by 1%. And I want to indicate that in 2024, we've actually had to curtail supply a bit towards the end of the financial year, because we operate within an abstraction license that we've actually been granted by the Department of Water and Sanitation. So at year end, we had actually maximized, fully utilized that abstraction license of 1,800 million cubic meters that we've actually been granted, which is then now, we've been granted it on a temporary basis, and it's been in effect for the last 2.5 years. And the intention is that by 31st August of 2025, that temporary license would then actually expire, and we have to actually come back to the 1,600 license levels, which will then in turn, reduce those volumes of supply to probably between the 2020 and 2021 levels. So it's actually an important aspect that we actually want to highlight, that even though you're seeing a flat increase of 1%, that 1% really was constrained by the license conditions, and we could not necessarily supply even more. From an operating expenses perspective, we highlighting here that even though we've had substantial, challenges, arising from the global economic conditions, because they are those products that we actually import, and inflationary pressures, we have been able to implement our proactive cost containment initiatives that have actually resulted really in significant efficiencies within the organization. Cost of sales component basket of costs increased by about 9.8%, and this is on the back of the 11% growth in revenues, so which that now gives you that buffer of 2% growth in the overall gross income generation. From the cost of raw water being the biggest contributor in our overall operating cost basket, would note that their contribution in the 2024 financial period has reduced to about 41% compared to 42% in the previous year. And this is on the back of an increase in volumes of supply in line with sales, that increased by about 1%. But herein we had a lower cost of increases, from a raw water perspective, they were sitting at about 5.9%. So hence the lower contribution in this current year. However, the energy costs contribution though, increasing significantly to about 24% to our overall cost basket. And this is on the back of now overall energy costs when you take in the pricing that I spoke about increasing by 15%, and then now the additional, energy that was actually utilized, in the current year, we are sitting with an overall energy cost increase of about 19%, which was actually primarily because of the higher tariffs from Eskom and municipalities, as well as, consumption that was driven by our lower reservoir levels, and, on the back of heightened demand, which actually then now required extensive pumping right through, even, outside of peak periods. The power dips and trips that we also experienced during the course of the year further exacerbated this particular costs that we're actually reporting, because it resulted in the restarting of the pumps even during peak periods, which then significantly impacted our energy cost basket. In this current year, we had commissioned a portion of the Station 5A system, 150 megaliters per day of was actually then now released. And as such, this also added, an additional operational cost, and required additional pumping. So hence the significant increase in our energy cost basket. So overall, really in this year, the main cost driver really being from an energy perspective. Chemical costs, as I indicated, coming in at similar levels as the previous year, sitting at about 4% contribution, on the back of the small reduction compared to the prior periods. Labor costs also aligned to the previous year performance. Operational costs, other operational costs, which would be, normally your fixed indirect costs, we are seeing these costs increasing at a marginal level of 4%. Compared to, which is almost in line with the inflationary, and this is on the back of our cost containment initiatives. And I must indicate that included in this particular cost basket would be our expected credit loss provision. So in this year, we're seeing expected credit loss increasing at a much slower rate, because then we're seeing improvement in the management, account management of some of the customers. We're still concerned about a basket of some of the non-performing, but we're seeing that there is an improving a trend. And wherein, underperforming class has then now shifted to the performing class, and there is a reducing number of the non-performing customers. Overall, how is then now this net income of 29% increase being generated? I think it's important that we focus on our operational contribution from an EBITDA perspective. We'll to note that in this year we are really happy and that we managed to generate about 3.9 billion in EBITDA. This has been an area, of concern where we've had significant pressure over the last 2 to 3 years, because the operational income had actually been eroded by the expected credit losses that we've actually had to provide for in the past. So we'll see on a year-on-year basis, we were actually just having a flat, increase. So not being able to, reinvest, the operational income back into the business. So in this particular year, we're seeing that at least even after the provision of expected credit loss, there is still, a further growth in EBITDA that's realized of about 600 million that will actually be reinvested. The expected credit losses are indicated, compared to the previous year, there is a decrease of 32%, and this is as a result of the improvement in the recovery rate of some of the customer classes, and not all of them. And this has actually resulted in an improvement in EBITDA. The other component that has contributed towards the overall improvement in our net income is then now our net finance income. And this is after applying and capitalizing borrowing costs to capital projects, and this was done in line with our accounting policy to those specific projects. We've managed in this particular year from our investment activities to really generate, really good, robust returns, with showing on the right-hand side there, 29% growth compared to the previous year, contributing about 1.3 billion of interest income that's been earned from our investing activities, as well as some that has actually been earned on our trade receivables, where then a penalty would have actually been charged, which amounts to about 200 million or so. So as a result, that has actually improved our net income generation to 4.5 billion. We also, happy to point out that, our activities from a treasury desk that has actually resulted in the improvement of 29% in the returns that have been plowed into the organization, really have actually done well amidst, reducing interest rates over this last year. The spreads that have, against benchmark have improved, as well as even, the net carry, positive carry that we actually even reporting against our overall weighted cost of debt is, quite pleasing as well. From a credit management perspective, our Achilles heel, we're reporting DSOs of 110 days. You can see that the trend line is actually not looking good. It's actually increasing, year on year. In 2023, we're sitting at 109 days. 2024 is 110 days. And the Group CE has really, spent a bit of time to talk about really what is it that we're actually doing in this particular space. Is our second highest strategic risk. So there is clearly a focus from a board, from a management perspective, and even from a shareholder perspective, where we've had significant, engagements and even support that we've actually received in order to really support our ailing municipalities. We have, as an organization, implemented relief packages. And, we mentioned this in order to put, this particular kind of performance in context. Because we have municipalities that are under financial distress, we've had to implement relief packages that includes extending the payment terms beyond 30 days to about 45 days. DSOs, as reflected, of course, would actually have been computed on the basis of the standard terms and conditions of 30 days as at year end, but we do give them an opportunity to pay, all their dues within a 45-day period, which has, in turn, when we've seen most of the municipalities, especially the metros, have actually applied for this extended payment terms, and which has assisted them in then now, splitting, their payment dues to us into two, with the portion 60% paid by end of the month and the balance 15 days, after month end. It has assisted them from a cash flow perspective, and this is also apparent, from a liquidity perspective, from a rainwater perspective, because we're seeing that our cash conversion is improving, though we are receiving, those payments within a 45 days, not helping from a DSO perspective. But because this has been in place for the last 2 years, we're now starting to see it really being reflected in the rate in which our expected credit losses are then, reported. So we're seeing a slower increase in expected credit losses in this year because, there is an increased payments, though within a 45-day period, especially from the metros. So in those DSOs of 2024, we had the 2 metropolitan municipalities who did not pay their dues at year end, but only paid them beginning of July. And those municipalities contribute about probably around 60% to our overall receivables and revenue streams. Total overdue debt historical that is sitting with us is sitting at about 5.7 billion. And this is from, all municipalities, with, the top 3 municipalities, who are actually non-performing, being, Mfuleni local municipality, and then the 2 Merafong municipality, and Govan Mbeki and Victor Kanye. So, and there has been extensive credit management measures that we have employed. We have employed, robust legal recovery processes, as well as implemented water reduction measures to our non-paying customers. And I'm sure you'd have actually seen it, in the media, the efforts that we've actually tried to implement to collect the revenues that are actually due to us. And we will continue to do so even in the new year. Other measures, the Group CE has already spoken about our partnership arrangements with the municipalities in the formation of an SPV. And we are doing so in order to ensure, water governance and yes, good water management. But we are saying, our intention is these ailing municipalities that are not able to to actually pay us, that we are actually willing to convert our receivable to an equity. So as that we can actually gain control and influence in the water management of that particular entity. So we should actually be expecting that this kind of arrangement will then result in a reduction in the overdue debt because, of this swap transaction of receivable into this equity instrument, and taking, and the municipality in turn will transfer their water assets into this SPV. From a CapEx perspective, we are still committed to infrastructure, enhancement. We've upgraded our infrastructure as well as to ensure that we have sufficient capacity for both the current and the future demands. We've also been able in this current year for the investments that we actually made in the past, brought to commission about 2 billion of assets into production, with a significant component of that 2 billion relating to augmentation projects that we have now commissioned, and then the remainder was renewable projects. We have a 5-year plan of our core water infrastructure of about 24 billion, with close to 3 billion of it already being committed on active contracts. And we'll actually be rolling out this 5-year plan over the next couple of years. We want to indicate that included in this 5-year plan, we have sufficient flexibility that has actually been built in, to address any, anomalies, and we do indicate that we do make provision for flexibility of about plus minus 30% overall in our CapEx program, and which was included even in our overall, funding arrangements. From a balance sheet perspective, showcasing our flexibility, and it's actually important that we actually review, our facilities and availability of funding on a normal, continuous basis in order to ensure that we're able to respond to any stress conditions as and when they actually occur. And during the period under review, we had total cash and cash equivalents of about 6.3 billion, which incorporates our liquidity buffer for working capital purposes of 2.2 billion. And this is in place in the instance, wherein there is delayed payments, that would actually be received from our customers to ensure that we are able to continue, trading for a period of 2 to 3 months. So we have set aside that kind of liquidity buffer. We've got our committed facilities with the top 4 banks as part of our multi-banking strategy of about 1.5 billion, as well as our DMTN program, which is about 10 billion, of which we've only utilized 3.1 billion. So our overall debt to date, total debt is sitting at about 3.1 billion, with that 8% gearing levels way below the mandatory, the regulated level of 50% that's included in our approved borrowing limits, which borrowing limits have just been reviewed and approved and are gazetted in June of 2024 for the next 3 to 4 years. Total liquidity for the period sitting at about 13.1 billion, and we've had, which is actually made up of other further headroom as well that we have in our DMTN program of 6.9 billion. We managed to successfully redeem RW23 in December of 2023. We have also continued to set aside funds for the redemption of the RWL 26 and RW 28 that will actually be maturing in 2026 and 2028 respectively. From an FWIE perspective, it's also important that we indicate that for the year under review, we had a regular expenditure of 741 million, mainly, relating to those projects that we had identified as irregular. A couple of years ago, the contracts are still running, and we are waiting for those contracts to be completed. And this particular process is running concurrently with the preservation, of these contracts process from a legal perspective through the courts, as well as with the condonation process with National Treasury. Unfortunately, most of these contracts we could not necessarily halt, when the irregularities were actually identified, because of the significance, thereof, and the impact that these contracts would actually have on our operations, and hence the decision was actually taken to actually continue with these contracts until expiry of those contracts. We've actually managed as well during the period to remove about 18 matters amounting to about 1.1 billion of irregular expenditure from these multi-year contracts that I've spoken about. Only 74,000 of fruitless and wasteful expenditure has actually been recorded in this current year. And we are continuing with our compliance and activities, and strengthened our combined assurance forum to integrate really all these compliance activities under one. Yes, and as I conclude and I hand over to the Group Chief Executive, I want to highlight that from a financial perspective, we are continuing really to maintain the financial health and sustainability. Our indication is we would still, looking forward to maintaining the margins and returns that we have attained so far, and that will continue to be our key focus area going forward. Customer defaults, critical area of focus that we'll actually also continue to focus on. And we will actually be looking at actually diversifying our sources of funds for our capital program. We do not necessarily have any funding need on our overall CapEx program currently. We will continue to fund it through internally generated cash. However, there are those projects that support our strategic goals that the Group Chief Executive will actually be talking to just after this, that talk to diversifying, water sources, alternative energy sources, vertical integration, rainwater services, the SPV arrangements, wherein we see opportunities really to partner with DFIs, banks, and investors in raising the necessary, funding to implement these activities. So really we look forward to our engagements in the roadshows that are actually coming up, and to indicate that we're actually also planning to have a Bankers' Day in the next 2 to 3 months to really unpack the strategic goals, and we hope that we will also see you there. Thank you. See you.
Thank you, CFO.
Right, it looks like my, no, there you go. Looking forward, in terms of the next 5 years, obviously, as rainwater, our business facilitates around providing water through infrastructure. So capital expenditure will remain key in terms of the projects, infrastructure development projects that we plan going forward. we really want to commit to the completion of our System 5A. We really want to continue and complete our System 5A. This is the augmentation project that we have identified in Zekerbosch, our purification works. As you may know, as the CFO has indicated last year, we took benefit of an odd 150 megaliters of water a day. We're going to throw a big party next year. We're adding another 450 million liters. By far. Ladies and gentlemen, by far, this will be the biggest purification works that South Africa has seen since the dawn of democracy. Probably the biggest in the continent in the last 30 years. That talks to the commitment that we have in terms of ensuring that we have the necessary infrastructure going forward. We'll continue to implement our aggressive maintenance program, including the refurbishment of our assets. You cannot only augment them, you cannot only upgrade them, you have to refurbish our assets, particularly those that are related to integrated Vaal River System program. As I also indicated, and Group CFO talked about this, we are going to be increasing and picking up the momentum with respect to alternative sources of water. I anticipate rainwater of 120 years from now will not be dependent on surface water. We will be, by and large, reusing bulk of the water that we have. We currently, as a South Africa, lagging behind. People see water coming from the wastewater treatment as wastewater. They call it effluent. We see it as a gold going forward. As we talk about climate change, reuse is going to be extremely important. I also indicated that we have partnered with quite a number of municipalities, Ekurhuleni, Midvaal, and Emfuleni, to take some of that effluent or wastewater, which I call new water, put it back into the system for non-drinking water purposes. And eventually, you may not like it, for drinking water purposes as well. We will continue to implement water conservation and demand management measures, not only within rainwater, but within municipal space. I cannot overemphasize the importance of efficiency going forward. So collectively, if we look at our augmentation and renewable program, together with other assets that we want to grow and develop, including moving assets, we're talking an investment of about 27.4 billion in the next 5 years. They are also spoken about System 5A. They need to complete that project next year. But in this slide, I just demonstrate other projects that we planned to put in place. We are completed last year. We completed the building of 210 megaliter Vlakfontein Reservoir, which was phase 1, the biggest post-tension pre-stress concrete reservoir in the world. Completed here, and we started building it during COVID, and then I'm happy to report, as you may know and have seen it, has been completed. But beyond that, we are planning additional reservoirs in the Eikenhof system, also in the Swartkoppie system, together with Palmit, to increase water storage in those areas. And these projects, we anticipate they will be completed in 2028. So as a suite of augmentation infrastructure that we're going to be put in place, we're not going to only add the new purification works, but we are going to also add additional reservoirs together with additional pipes that we're going to continue laying going forward. Just in terms of alternative sources of water supply, what we have, as I indicated, I have a dedicated team in Rainwater that is doing this, and it is a goal on its own in terms of our strategic goals. With desired outcome, we have KPI'd it, we have put together goals, and we know exactly where we are now, where we need to be going forward. So the reclamation plan, effluent reuse plan, just before the meet next year, 2025, we will make sure that all the designs are completed and the tender processes in 2026 are completed. And we believe between 2026, 2027, we should be having a plan running in that regard. And in the outer years, we will not only be talking about alternative sources of water, but indeed we will be having living projects with the necessary concrete in place to ensure that that happens. We talked about this SPV. How is it going to look like? In this slide, we tried to demonstrate how this SPV is going to be taking shape. In the middle of the slide there, you'll see it's SPV joint venture. It's going to be a new company that is going to be established. That company is going to be owned by Rainwater Services. Rainwater Services, you'll see there at the top of the slide, will have a significant shareholding. And indeed, as a result of the investments that we're going to be making, GCFO has indicated what we planned to do there. We want to convert those receivables, particularly here in Enfuleni, those receivables that we have been anticipating for quite a long time, into equity that will go in here. What we planned to do as well, as I indicated and talked about at length, this SPV joint venture new company is going to have its own new management structure. It's going to have its own board, and it will be dealing with all water-related projects. Operations, maintenance, upgrade of the infrastructure, and refurbishment thereof is going to be happening in there. So as an end user in Enfuleni in particular, you'll see that we have gotten applications as well from other municipalities, including Victor Kanye, Mirafo, that are saying, listen, Rainwater, we can't do this thing on our own. Come partner with us, develop this SPV so that we change the situation around. The end user, our customers, will be paying into the SPV. So if we are a consumer in those areas, you pay your bill in there. The other source of revenue is going to be coming from all the grants that municipalities are getting. In terms of our business model, on its own, it will not survive if it's not assisted in the beginning, and so that it picks up. So what will then happen to the actual departments in municipality? In Enfuleni, that department is called Metsi Alekwa. That department will then move into the SBV. What we're doing slightly different is that the municipalities will also own shares, but minority shareholding into the system, because municipalities are water services authority in terms of the current legislation. They have a responsibility to make sure that water is provided to the consumers, affordable, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, as we do so, politicians will also want to take credit. So instead of taking everything away from them, we said municipalities will be part of the SPV, but at the minority shareholder. Otherwise, it will defeat the purpose. To whet your appetite, there's also going to be ESOP scheme or third-party scheme. We want to be innovative about it. Our employees at an SPV level will own shares in this thing. So that we move away from I'm going to work, Kiaspani, to I'm going to work for an entity that I own and people take ownership. What we also envisage going forward is that we are going to be going into the marketplace because on its own, the SPV will not have the necessary capex to function. We are going to be going into marketplace, bring the private sector participation so that they are part of the solution. Somebody said, was it you, CFO, said, money is not a problem in South Africa. In fact, people that have money, they're looking for bankable projects. Here it is. We can't invest in anything better than water. Water is life. There's no substitute for it. You put money in water, you get your dividend back. I can assure you that. Because there's no way that anybody in South Africa can survive without water. And what I like about it is the governance structures. The governance structures that we're going to be putting in place from management, from the shareholding, from the directors. As an SPV, we're going to be appointing professionals to run this outfit. The MD of Rainwater Services, as I indicate, was in Rainwest, and we believe that this can be an innovative way of solving water and sanitation challenges going forward. So we are going to be launching the first one, I'm sure, early next year, and then progressively other SPVs are going to take effect. We're now talking about a new way of doing things. We're now talking about a new way of ensuring sustainable water supply going forward. We also, as I indicated earlier, we have a strategic goal that looks at self-reliance on energy. And we are working, as I indicated, with our transactional advisors to package these things and possibly fund them off the balance sheet. I believe, CFO, I don't know, but I believe that some of them will be bankable enough for us to take them into the marketplace. We are going to be pulling in IPPs. We are in the process of analyzing transactional advisors to do so. The opportunities are huge, from gas, from solar, from hydro, as I indicated. We believe that we can take about 10% of that 300 megawatts that we use for energy and take it through to the renewables. We're also going to be very innovative, and then I probably spoke about this before, but the CFO is now heading our mergers and acquisitions. We are moving in the space of de-risking ourselves in terms of energy supply. If you look at that number that the CFO presented earlier, you can't make sense of why the costs are going up and down uncontrollably like that. It's because we are not in charge of that part of the value chain. Chemicals are the fourth biggest expense in our books. We have to take control of that. I just spoke about our pride in making sure that we supply the best drinking water in the world. Without chemicals, we'll not do it. So in terms of the long-term vision, we are going downstream into this market. We are speaking to people of like-minded, and we believe very shortly we'll be inviting you to cut in the ribbon of our new, brand new, from-the-box chemical production or chemical manufacturing plant in terms of the chlorochemical market. We use a lot of chemicals to treat water. We need to take control of that, and we are really at the tail end of ensuring that. There's also an opportunity to invest in that space. We have bankable business plans, and other people in the marketplace have shown interest to do so. And we'll continue. Just off hot the press, I need to tell you that Rainwater as a brand has been recognized in the continent, and to that effect, We have seen people that says, we want you to come into our country to do operations and maintenance. I'm not going to tell you which country is that. Please buy newspapers for a change and see me cutting that ribbon. So as we grow into the continent, we'll also be expanding this business operation and be a supplier of chemicals of choice. We're going to be working with those in this space going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
Okay, thank you. You will note, honorable guests, that we only have 2 items remaining in the program. I'm happy that the system did not automatically bring in the COO to do a vote of thanks, because I would have been a very useless program director without making announcements. You can see now, as we move forward to automation in future, we're not going to be controlling anything. Somebody's going to be sitting somewhere in a corner and you think you've won and something else has won for you. Thank you. I just want to make 1 or 2 announcements before you come through. Ne? And colleagues, I hope you have enjoyed the presentations by the Chief Executive and the Chief Financial Officer, but also they're showing you where Rand Water is and where Rand Water is going, and we're hoping that as a good citizen of this country, we're not going to fail this country and its image. I've been advised, you know, when you are a program director, you're actually coached by hidden forces. And these hidden forces have said to me, colleagues, on the tables where you are now, there is, what do you call it in Ngobela? Is it a vase, or that pot plant or plant pot? Blompot, ke tseba eo lena. Ke blompot, There, each table has 1. And because of the cost containment measures and all the regulations by National Treasury, we cannot be showering people with gifts when we invite them to events. But we've created a very innovative way of somebody taking this blompot home with them. So I am told that one of the chairs on the table there, somebody could be sitting on a number. That number under your chair could be the one that defines who takes the pot home. So now, I tried to test it here. Hey, Onoroko yena manai. It's very difficult to undress this chair. So I don't know how you're going to do it. But this is the moment that you can check under your chair, and those that are empty, you can take them as well and check if you really like this. And we will see if you have taken it without having a corresponding number. So that's the gift to look at the CFO and the CE looking for the number. Hey, I made a mistake. How are you going to do a vote of thanks when everybody is looking for a So somebody found 1 there. So it really works. So that table is sorted. So all the other tables, where you're sitting, there could be a number, but you will do that as you prepare to go to large. No. I'm a chief strategy officer, but I was not strategic enough here. No. Hey, colleagues, please. Dr. Becker, let's wait. Okay, colleagues. No, I need to review my title. This was not a strategic move at all. I should have waited until you concluded. But I thought I was dealing with very matured, patient predators. You were going to pounce when everyone else was least expecting. So this is where we are. Ntate Mehlo, please give us a vote of thanks. And this is my parting shot, colleagues. After this, then he's going to take us to lunch. Then you can then turn the tables and chairs upside down. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, thank you, Program Director Ntate Kubega. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Still morning. My job here is obviously a simple one, is that of delivering the vote of thanks. Today is indeed a day of jubilation and adulations. You know, and then you could see with the presentations, the passion and the excitement with which the CE and the Group CFO delivered the presentations. As Michael Josephson once remarked, the world has enough beautiful mountains and meadows, spectacular skies and serene lakes. It has enough lush forests, flowered fields, and sandy beaches. It has plenty of stars and the promise of a new sunrise and sunset every day. What the world needs more of is people to appreciate and enjoy it. Program Director, with that said, let me first thank you for a job well done in directing this program today. Indeed, you have made this daunting task look easy, and we thank you so much for your stewardship in today's event. Let me also thank you, Ntate Kubega, with the words of encouragement. He usually reminds me that he's the elder. And I think today it has shown why. Thank you, Ntate Kubega, for the elderly statesmanship you have shown today. To our Group Chief Financial Officer, Mme Matsidi, so her other name is also Sylvia. She doesn't want people to know it. I call her our Miss Dependable, for always delivering the best news this time of the year, and consistently so. We appreciate the good set of financials of TD. Thank you so much. To our Group Chief Executive, Captain Fantastic, Ndade Musaira Leboa. I always look forward to that phrase when you stand here and say, Randwater was established in 1903. I remember it like the year. I remember the year very well. It's almost like he was there, you know, establishing the company himself. We remain eternally grateful to have a leader of your stature and vision, a leader who is so passionate about the water sector, the business he runs, and more importantly, its people. We thank you for your resilience, especially during difficult times. We thank you for your patience and guidance, and we certainly look forward to your captaincy in the coming years and beyond. To our board, and by extension, the boards of Randwater subsidiary companies, we thank you for sharing the Randwater vision, your stewardship and support to the holding company, to your respective entities. Sibambangazo zosibini. Let's translate that. To the Randwater Brigade, the men and women at the coalface of our business, as the GCE would always say, Bula. We appreciate your every effort, your blood, sweat, and tears as you continue to be the pillar of our organization, and we rely on your continued support to take the organization to even greater heights. To our esteemed guests, we're extremely grateful for your presence and continued support. Thank you to all the attendees for making this event a success. We also wish to extend our gratitude to everyone behind the scenes. Your efforts in coordinating and ensuring that everything runs smoothly are recognized and greatly appreciated. Program Director, I thank you. I think as you have already directed that beyond this, it would be time for lunch. I've seen the preparations are in good order outside. I suppose the chair's story can start now. I thank you so much.
Yeah, no, asiqaleni itulo phela. Okay, colleagues, Ndate Mehlo was taking you to lunch, but I realized that you are worried that if you stand up first, somebody else will pick the chair that you are sitting on. We will also be networking, colleagues. I think the reason why these gatherings happen is for us to get to know each other better and find moments where we can identify new opportunities for us to sustain our relations going forward and probably new avenues of exploring the relations going forward. Thank you very much. You can then turn down the chairs and then we can go and eat.